Before we get to the weather and breaking news, J Dog, are you pumped up for your All Star game?
You see the hat, don't you?
I'm sorry. You know what? When you went in there, you had the lights out because it's going to be hot today in your studio. I haven't seen. Is that the All Star hat
It's
for the
the All-Star
Guardians?
game hat that Cleveland will wear tonight.
All right, and it should be a good one, I guess. And we do have the start of the semifinals World Cup soccer this afternoon. A lot going on, but let's start with the news. We got a packed show for you, so let's tell you what's going on. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning, New England. There's a lot going on up in Maine and Biddeford. We'll come back to that. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, worldwide. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the pulse of NH. We have really warm temperatures coming in today, but really what you should be looking at is more the possibility of some colder air coming in, which could cause some big thunder boomers. They're calling it severe weather later. That could be early this evening. We're not sure, depending where you are. So just keep an eye on Mother Nature today, but hotter. Don't have anything in the vehicle. Don't leave anyone there because it's hot, hot, hot. Midday, early afternoon, be in the upper 90s. All right, Biddeford, Maine, a lot of emotions running high after that ICE-involved immigration shooting yesterday in Biddeford. We'll come back to that, and a lot of protest already yesterday afternoon. And we'll tell you what the head of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, told Senator Angus King of Maine in a moment. Strait of Hormuz seems to be the focus again of the war with and in Iran. President Trump, a third day now, hitting targets hard, especially Iranian ports along the very convoluted Strait of Hormuz. The ironic thing of the Strait of Hormuz, it's anything but straight. And what is at the center of all this? Because guess what? It's been since February 28th since we've been at war, off and on, if you will, with Iran. We'll come back to that. Also, get this one. This is exclusive. Well, there's a big story on our show at 10 o'clock. It's been 42 years. J-Dog and I were talking about this before the break. 42 years since a 15-year-old girl went missing in Concord, New Hampshire. She had just innocently left the apartment of her sister, left her things there. She's never been seen since. Shirley Ann Tippy McBride, 42 years as of yesterday, missing. And the cold case senior attorney general for the state of New Hampshire is going to join us at the top of the 10 o'clock. Why? They want to finally solve this case, and they want and need your help. Your help. We got a full show for you this morning. Mike Cody will break down some latest real estate numbers. We're going to hear from our friends at Easter Seals in terms of the Veterans Count program. But let's get back to the start, the basics. We have, of course, yesterday on the show, we were telling you, and as the day went on, this happened yesterday morning early in Biddeford, Maine, and it was it was after 7 a.m. when immigration enforcement officers, federal agents, were looking for an individual who had they had an order, stop order, they call it, to leave the country, an illegal immigrant. And another individual, according to reports now, was in that area, leaving the scene of that residence, according to Senator King and the Homeland Security chief, not the person they were after, but the Senator Angus King of Maine has released a statement that the agents, the person they ended up shooting and killing, was not the subject of that particular warrant. However, according to the Department of Homeland Security, they say that the individual had weaponized the vehicle and the vehicle was a weapon at that point, and ICE agents reacted by the threat. An illegal alien departed the residence in a vehicle. ICE law enforcement attempted to conduct a vehicle stop. This is a statement from Homeland Security. The vehicle attempted to flee the scene, and fearing for public safety, an officer discharged his weapon. The driver of the vehicle was struck and eventually, was died as a result. So this is the statement. This happened yesterday about 7 a.m. in Biddeford, Maine. Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, was conducting a targeted surveillance on the last known address of an illegal alien with a final order, they call it, for removal from this country. And another illegal alien, according to Homeland Security and ICE, departed the residence in a vehicle, and this is what led to the situation. Senator Angus King of Maine previously had said the man who was killed was not the target of the officer's warrant. King said he spoke with Homeland Security Secretary who told him that the man was shot after he allegedly weaponized the vehicle. That's from the Homeland Security Secretary and Senator Angus King. So the investigations are continuing. The state of Maine is officially investigating, and this has put the hot spot of the whole debate over ICE and illegal immigration right squarely on the state of Maine. Ironically, not even a week after the Senate Democrat nominee, you might remember his name, although it's now beginning more fading memory, thank goodness, Graham Plattner, withdrew from the race over all the sexual allegations and misconduct. Maine's in the process, in the midst of all this, of the Maine Democrat Party, I should say, not Maine, the Maine State Democrat Party, of putting in a replacement for Plattner in the face of all this. So this situation in Maine, and there are a couple of things that were interesting yesterday. By the way, our poll question up on X this morning at the Pulse of an H has to do with the Biddeford, Maine story. And that is, do you think the debate over ICE and federal immigration enforcement of illegal immigration will be a big midterm issue in the elections this fall? Yes or no? Going to get a lot of reaction on that. That's up on our pages. A couple of ironies I'm going to point out. Boy, it's quick. It's amazing how quickly hundreds of people in Biddeford made, but they're not from Biddeford. Okay, they're not from Biddeford. Let me repeat that. They're not from Biddeford. Hundreds of people can show up and protest. Yesterday, like no one's working, all of a sudden just go protest. And I'm not saying it's okay to peacefully protest. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be a full-blown investigation and questions about, were the agents, federal ICE agents, were their lives in imminent danger? Was this a lethal threat? Did they have to use lethal force to execute the arrest? These are questions that should be asked. And a couple points, I talked to some friends already this morning before the show. No, the ICE agents were not wearing body cameras. And I researched this on my own. We have in New Hampshire now, police, state police, where they have to wear these body cameras to basically document their interactions with the public. And some law enforcement officers I've talked to when this first happened here, they weren't sure they liked that idea. But now officers say this thing can actually be their friend as much as anything else, because it can show in a situation if they act appropriately and accordingly, and if their life was in danger. These particular ICE agents yesterday morning at 7 a.m. in Biddeford were not wearing body cameras. And apparently the agency wants them to, but it's not mandatory. And let me just ask you a question. Had they been wearing them and this vehicle was weaponized coming at an officer or an ICE agent, it might quell some of the public protest with some people, but not all. Because you see, there's an element, and this is so divisive, this subject, you can't even discuss it with any middle ground, this whole subject, because there are some people believe that on the far left, I would have to say more than the middle right in political spectrum, they believe there's no illegal immigration. In other words, they don't think anyone is here illegally, and they don't think anyone here is a threat, and they are going to despise ICE all day long, no matter what the evidence shows, they're going to be anti-ICE. And you saw that yesterday with these immediate protests with hundreds of up to 1,000 people protesting in Biddeford, Maine, coming to the area, by the way. And I don't know if you saw the video of the march. I'd almost call it a mob onto Senator Collins' office, her office, which I assume was in Portland. Look up the video yourself, pounding on the door. She's got to go. And this is all a week after the whole Graham Plattner stuff in Maine. Wow, Maine, a lot of emotion there. When we come back, one of our political analysts will talk a little bit about the politics of the day, Mike Dennehy, because now the Strait of Hormuz is back in the storyline of what apparently our focus in the war with Iran is a not nuclear threat. And it does beg or lead to the question, and I raise this, and it may not be popular, but I'm going to raise it because I look at things like wars and our government and military, and I'm a supporter of our military and the red, white, and blue all day long, all night long, all day long. However, it makes you wonder if this whole thing from the beginning wasn't about oil and energy and controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Here we go again. 3 days of bombing, and that's what the president's talking about, including charging the ships for safe passage. He now says at this rate, we'll control the whole thing Was this what it was all about? I don't know, but it really needs to be asked. And I have no doubt that the president, because I looked it up, February 28th is when all this started. It was going to be just a few weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, remember? And then it was over and it wasn't. And then they wanted a deal and they didn't. And then we had a deal and we don't. And there have been ceasefires. And the one thing I'm going to say, because I do think I might get into some, well, I don't think I'll get into trouble, but I might raise some flags. I do think the NSA and the security level kind of presented a picture to the president when the options were laid in front of him before that Saturday morning we bombed Tehran and took out the Ayatollah and a lot of his generals, if you will, in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And I think that the president thought after Venezuela and now this that it would be pretty quick. I really do. I don't think the president is enjoying, but this is going on closer to 6 months than 4. And now we're escalating. We're escalating, which was my fear that this would be a protracted war in the Middle East. But I'm going to say this, and it may ruffle feathers, and I apologize, but I don't give a damn at this point because this has to be said or asked. What did we think? We were going to successfully negotiate a peace deal with terrorists. We're going to successfully negotiate a deal with terrorists, the Islamic State, terrorists for 47 years. You think we could trust terrorists to live up to their word? Why did we think that? Just some commentary. 603-228-2080. And again, 42 years since a 15-year-old girl went missing in Concord. Shirley Ann Tippy McBride. We're going to hear from the cold case team, top of the 10 o'clock. They want and need your help. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an Age. Back in a moment.
Sundays at 3 on the Hampshire. Good morning, New Hampshire, live from the New England College Studios. Now, back to Jack on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
That's a good question. All right. How many? Well, it's interesting. It's not far off the number. All right. Welcome back. I'm looking up a number to share with our next guest, Mike Dennehy, one of our political analysts and all-stars who's joining us in a moment. I think, or is Mike with us, J-Dog? Oh, he's on. Mike Dennehy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I am here. I'm in the house. How are you?
I'm in the J-Dog house, staying cool.
Yeah,
On this
it's going to be a hot one.
Tuesday.
It's going to be a hot one. Not as hot as in Biddeford, but
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it for a moment, because you and I did talk before the show a little bit on some issues. You're also going to be our guest today on our Contact Politics podcast. So we were going over some stuff, and well, on that one, we'll have a positive memory of Lindsey Graham. And I saw today his sister being sworn in till the end of his term in January. But Mike, let's go back, because I do think we need to talk about it. So I'm trying to be succinct, and I do believe that this is one of those areas on the debate over immigration enforcement, illegal immigration, and ICE agents doing it, that there's no gray, there's no middle ground. You either fall into the camp that there's too many illegal immigrants here, and we're going to deport them if need be. And in general, ICE has a hard job, and people support law enforcement or ICE agents, and people, when they're being told by a police officer to stop a vehicle, regardless of the speed, probably should not be going forward. Whether or not the agents had to discharge, their weapons and fire into the vehicle, because I haven't seen any evidence, and I'm not the arbitrator or the investigator, and I don't know if imminent, lethal force or their lives were imminently in danger or not. But the point is, there's people that believe they got a tough job, and some of these folks that they're after don't make it any easier, and bad things can happen. Yeah. And then there's a school, and you saw it, and you see it this morning in Biddeford with thousands, probably more than 1,000 people now showing up. They're not from Biddeford, by the way, to protest, and protested even at Susan Collins' Senate office. And they believe that ICE is never right, that ICE is the problem. That ICE is evil, and there's no real illegal immigration problem or issue, and these people are innocent, and ICE officers are murdering. That's the word, murdering them. And there's that school of thought, and there's really no middle ground.
No, there isn't. There really isn't, Jack. And we did talk a little offline, but I think it's sadly important to start with the political environment, because President Biden, in particular, allowed this kind of activity to grow and flourish. And by activity, I mean the extreme opposition to law enforcement from pro-illegal immigrants.
Right.
Whether it's individuals or organizations.
Or real quickly, or just defund the police in general. Do you know a lot of the socialist candidates who were just elected to these primaries in New York and others outright are calling for abolishing police, defund the police? But keep going.
Yes. And so, Jack, this basically the Biden administration has allowed this kind of behavior, and in many ways encouraged it, and that continues in the far left activists and some of our far left officials. It's basically, they say it's okay to do, and so when you have people saying it's okay to treat law enforcement like this, it's just it's a recipe for disaster. And I think the situation that we're in, these guys are trying to do their job.
Right.
I mean, I'm in favor of trying to get our country's illegal immigration under control.
But the truth is, Maine doesn't even want ICE agents there. They don't want they don't want their law enforcement to even cooperate with them. They don't want ICE agents there. Mike, it's interesting because when you go back to the election with President Trump and Kamala Harris, former Vice President nominee Harris, go back to that election. One of the hot button issues, and I'm not sure, our poll question this morning will it be this midterm, another one? But a big issue is close the southwest border.
Yep.
And the independent voters overwhelmingly were in favor, with the majority of people, to close the southwest border. This unchecked unflow of illegal immigration
That's right.
was out of control and a problem. And we had consensus. There was actually
Yeah.
consensus. But then as the reality of cleaning up how many millions, and I just looked up how many illegal immigrants are in Maine, started to happen, excuse me, and then we had Minneapolis, Houston the other day, Biddeford, Maine now. Now that it's happening, the divisiveness is getting extreme again, where the people that are anti-ICE, they, in my opinion, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we could do a poll of the people protesting today in Biddeford, Maine, I'm being honestly and respectful. Peaceful protest is fine, by the way. I wouldn't really call the mob that went pounding on the door of Senator Collins' office yesterday peaceful, but anyway.
Nor would I, right.
Peaceful protest is okay. But if you ask the people protesting in Biddeford, Maine, or a lot of Democrats today this question, I want you to be candid on this, because you and I at least can be candid. We don't drink all the Kool-Aid.
Right.
Would you favor reopening the southwest border? I think a lot of those folks would say yes.
Yeah.
And do you believe America has any illegal immigration problem? And a lot of those people would say no.
Yep.
Do you
Totally
believe
agree.
ICE and the federal law enforcement are the problem? And those people would say yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Am I wrong on any of those?
No, not at all.
Well, I don't know where it goes from here, Michael. And the other thing, you mentioned politics. This isn't the backdrop of the Graham Plattner political plane crash last week.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
And now you have
know,
the
and
Democrats in Maine picking a new successor. And guess what's going to be hot and front and center is this whole debate over immigration enforcement.
It is, and it's a sad situation for sure. But it's really a shame that both sides, but especially those who oppose law enforcement, if we all just went back to supporting law enforcement, just supporting law enforcement, things would go a lot cleaner. Whether it's illegal immigrants or those supporting illegal immigrants, they would not feel empowered to impose law enforcement and the laws of our country.
Right.
They're just being they're being enabled to oppose. I mean, to oppose the laws of our country. It's a big problem.
And they believe, and the people that are anti all of this, they believe every illegal immigrant is innocent.
That's exactly right.
And they're being
Yep.
persecuted by, well, they call them what? Nazi, wait a minute. These are the people they call ICE Nazis, but yet Graham Plattner had a Nazi tattoo. I can't figure this out. Hey, Michael, let's switch gears. Middle
Yes,
East. Is there a messaging problem or a popularity problem with America now on the war with Iran? In other words, I'm all for and was and always will be taking a nuclear threat away from Islamic State of terrorists. That's not a good idea. That's worth doing. But here we go again. It's all about the Strait of Hormuz, controlling it, attacking the Iranian ports along the way, which again is fine with me. But is it really about the energy and oil all along? I just asked the question.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, Jack, I think there's been a messaging problem from day one. I just don't think the Trump administration has done what they need to do when it comes to messaging. I think they've taken a lot for granted, and I think that they've pushed. I think they pushed okay for the first month or two, but now I think they've really lost the messaging of this war, and now, because of the situation we're in, I think the majority of people are beginning to believe this is all about oil and not about nuclear weapons. So the Trump administration needs to get on this quick. They need to. I don't even know what the strategy is anymore. So that's where I think what they're missing, and they need to get on top of yesterday, because gas prices are still killing people's pocketbooks, and we are just months away from a midterm election, and that's still close between Republicans and Democrats, especially in New Hampshire. I mean, you see John Sununu within striking distance of taking out Congressman Chris Pappas for the U.S. Senate seat. So, and as we discussed, the Collins seat in Maine. So the political consequences of not getting this messaging right are dire.
Yeah. And what about the midterms and the impact if this is still an off and on bombing, one day bombing,
Yeah.
one day not with
Yeah.
Iran?
Yep. And of course, that follows some of the president's remarks that we've basically won and it's over. So, the off and on is going to start driving people crazy and not knowing what to believe anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. But again, I guess it's still, believe it or not, July 14th, not, we're not into Labor Day or, end of
No,
August, but that's
true.
going to come. That's going to come fast. That's going to come quick enough.
Super quick.
Yep.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
Michael. Good stuff. Enjoy the podcast. So it should be up and available this afternoon at 2:00. Contact Politics, Brad Card, host, and yours truly, and Michael. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. We'll break down some of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, which is not that straight. No pun intended. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. And our poll question up on X this morning has to do with what's going on in Biddeford. And that has to do with, do you think illegal immigration of the debate over it all and enforcement and ICE will be a big midterm election here in New Hampshire? Probably will be in Maine, but what about New Hampshire? Yes or no? Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Also streaming on YouTube in the first hour of the show. And yours truly is in Concord at the Pulse of an H on YouTube, our own channel. Back in a moment.
This is the Pulse of New Hampshire, 107.7 W.
90s, depending where you are. But also they're saying, and I've seen different reports, so I honestly don't know. They're saying there could be some serious weather later on. I don't know, J-Dog, is it more this evening, early evening? What are you hearing or seeing on that? If we get any thunder boomers or the cold air coming in?
Potential late evening.
Late evening? So if you hear the boomers late evening, that's what it is. But hot weather today and hot tomorrow. But I don't think tomorrow is going to be as hot as today, J-Dog. But I might be. And then things get a little more cooled off for Thursday. A lot going on in the sports world. If you're into it, you are. J-Dog's into it. All-Star baseball game tonight. And World Cup semifinals. One of the games getting off today. Another one tomorrow. I think they're both
and
3
Spain
o'clock.
today, 3 p.m.
That J-Dog has France, Spain today at 3, and then the other one tomorrow at 3. I want to take a moment because it's rather amazing. It's rather amazing that we can have this war going on between principally the United States, by the way, even though Israel's a factor, and other parts of the Middle East and Gulf states, but principally between the United States and the Islamic State of Iran. That's what's since February 28th. And it's been off and on, as we know. It's been, as Mike Dennehy just said correctly, it's been mixed messages because, the president, who's been the main spokesperson throughout this process, has said more than once, they want a deal, they want a deal, they want a deal desperately, they want a deal badly. They want a deal. We got a deal. We got a deal. I mean, J.D. Vance and the team went to wherever in Switzerland and then recently, trying to get this deal, and they got an agreement and they signed it and they made a big deal. They signed it. We signed it. The president signed it. Remember, he was leaving the G7. I remember all this like it was yesterday. He signed it. J.D. Vance went to the negotiations and the Iranians signed it. And then the ceasefire wasn't a ceasefire. And I'm just giving you like 30,000 feet. And the other day, the president said they're scum. The people that run Tehran and the country are scum. They're cheats. They're thugs. They're terrorists. You can't believe them. They're professional negotiators. Not that good, but you can't believe them. Can't believe anything they say. They're not honest. They're scum. And I'm not saying the president's wrong in any of that. But what did we think? What did we think? You're dealing with the Islamic State of Iran. You're dealing with a extremist terrorist organization, the hardliners of the Middle East, death to the end. They're dug in literally, decentralized terrorist state, been wanting to blow us and the West up and anything in the way, including Israel, for 47, almost 50 years. You're dealing with a group of people who absolutely despise and hate the West and the United States of America. And certainly this president who had the you-know-what to bomb them. But it's a mess because you can't negotiate a rational deal with terrorists. Now, we can continue to bomb them into submission, and that's maybe what we're trying to do right now, third day. But I spoke to someone this morning early, and maybe it goes back to my university days and postgraduate or war college days with the U.S. Army War College as a civilian national security seminar where I absorbed so much information like a sponge. It was so wonderful to be there, incredible to meet our senior military executive leaders, talk about world stuff, talk about the threat from China, the Arctic Circle in China, talk about Putin, talk about all these threats, but really talk about the Middle East. And what do you think of when you think of the Middle East? What do you think of other than terrorism? What do you think of? What do I think of? I think of oil. And for decades, my growing up was a thing called OPEC, the oil producing, exporting countries, a cartel. What do you think of when you think of a cartel? I think of like the Mexican drug cartels. You think of like illegal activity, Saudi Arabia, all those countries that made all their palaces and money off of oil. Oil is the gold of the Middle East, and it's the power of the Iranian, the Islamic State. That's their power is oil. You could say it's nuclear enrichment and uranium, but their real power is money and oil. and the Strait of Hormuz. That's the real power of Iran. That's what the terrorists need, is money to still blow stuff up, money to be a threat, money to be taken seriously. And they're doing everything they can to hold on because that's what terrorists do. They're going to hold on and fight till the end. And it's amazing. We go about our lives today. We go about our lives here, Tuesday, July 14th. A lot of people working because you have to push the ball forward. A lot of business owners don't have time to dive in and read all the stuff, the foreign policy, the defense analysis, watch the stock market go up and down with this war with Iran. And I don't mean to sound cynical, but you know, the amazing thing about wars, as taxing as they are, as much as they're going to drive the oil and energy prices up and the uncertainty of the markets like a yo-yo, a lot of people make a lot of money when we're at war with Iran. Our U.S. energy, oil companies, and gas companies were not disliking this. They were making a lot more money for a barrel of oil. You know it, and I know it. Some would say Putin fought the whole war in Ukraine over becoming the natural gas station of Europe and making a ton of money through energy. See, the energy debate, people may not want to admit it, still makes the world go round. Often I have said, is a great movie, and really do yourself a favor if there's a night when you want to take your mind off all the crap and stress. I've said it 100 times on the show, not 1,000. The late Robert Redford, 3 Days of the Condor. Great movie about a CIA analyst in New York. His unit gets taken out because they stumble upon a secret covert CIA splinter operation in Africa, of all places, to get oil and water. And at the end of the movie, Redford thinks he exposes and does right, self-righteous. And the CIA agent says, all you've done today is set us back. And the funny thing in the movie is, 30 years old? I don't know, or longer.
Oh, no, it's almost 50 now, Jack.
You got to be kidding me. It's that old. And you know what the guy says at the end, and it applies today, July 14th, 2026. He said, in 50 years from now, when Americans are paying $4 or $5 a gallon for gas, they're not going to give a crap where they get it from. That's
1975, by the way.
1975. That's the end of the movie. They're not going to care where they get it from. They're not going to care or ask questions. So was all this war with Iran as we go on, started February 28th? Yes, we can take out their nuclear threat and should. That's a good thing. I don't want terrorists having a nuclear bomb. That's where the president's right. But was he kind of sold a bill of goods by his own intelligence community? We can take them out quick, bomb the Ayatollah, take them out quick, they'll fold. We can control the strait and stop the nuclear threat. Was it all in the end so we could have more control over oil and energy in that part of the world, particularly the Strait of Hormuz? Because you've seen how strategic it is to China, to Europe. Look at the impact. And here we go again. Day 3, all I'm hearing about this morning is the Strait of Hormuz in control. And what flows through there, other than a lot of things, including fertilizer? Oil. Oil and oil. And who gets most of their oil from the Iranians? China. And this might have been what it's all about, folks. I just want to make you think a little bit, even if you don't agree. 603-228-2080. What do they say? Follow the money? Well, no matter what you think about politics and energy policy, follow the oil. The world still revolves on oil and gas, folks. I'm sorry. Look at it. I broke those numbers down for you on how much oil and gas the U.S. consumes every single day, 365 a year. I broke down the numbers of China every single day, how much oil and gas it takes to run China and run the United States, despite the debate over wind and solar and renewable. Oil and gas, folks, every single day to run this country, to run those air conditioners, natural gas, which makes electricity. We should have more of it here and control it here, absolutely. But in the world, it's still running on one thing, and one thing only, it seems: oil and gas. And just Strait of Hormuz, here we go, some commentary. All right, we'll update you on some of the other news talk on this Tuesday. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H back in a moment.
News Live from the New England College Studios. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
J-Dog is pacing already before the first pitch tonight. All-Star game. I can't believe we're at the All-Star break, J-Dog. Can you?
I can't either because 1 month from tomorrow I go on vacation in New York and
Wow.
with the Mets and everything. Yeah.
Is that the one you want me to go with you on?
No, definitely not.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm quite sure. Mrs. Met, she's mine, Jack. You get anyway. No, I can't believe that the All-Star break is here, Jack, because the World Cup. I can't believe we're in the semis for the World Cup. It's just everything is just going so fast and accelerating. I can't.
And that's actually a good. That's a good segue of a couple of things, J-Dog. What you just said. Things are going so fast. It's a very good point because
Accelerating.
J-Dog, I think it, and I don't know. I talked to, this is kind of profound. I talked to a brother-in-law of mine who's traveling with his smarter, prettier, better half. Don't want to upset anyone. So instead of saying his wife, I'll say his smarter, prettier, better half. He's traveling. And they're having a good week wherever they are. It's out of state. And he just said, out of the region, actually, because he doesn't live in New Hampshire, but New England. And he said he's just having a great time. You know what he said, J-Dog? He said it's amazing because he knew because I'll just say they spend a lot of their time in Maine. He was aware of the Biddeford, Maine, what's going on there because he has a kid who works in the area. He knows. But he said it's amazing when you're away and you shut this thing off from the noise of the world, how quiet it can be and how less stressful. Who's that, J-Dog?
I was pointing. No, it was gesture a phone. That's what you meant, right?
Yeah. He was
put the phone down.
Put this thing down. Turn off some of the chatter every day and the divisiveness and the big stuff. And it's amazing how you can live your life. I just talked about the Strait of Hormuz. It's a long way away. The whole thing in the Middle East and Iran. It seems like a long way. It is a long way away, unless you're in the refueling guard of peace and you're activated again to go support our fighter jets. But anyway. It's a long way away, out of sight, out of mind. But it affects you. Because when you go to that gas station this week or you fill up, get some gas for your lawnmower, your camper, or your vehicle, it affects you. That's where the global thing comes in. But my brother-in-law was saying just amazing how chill and relaxed they are and how refreshing and healthy it is for you. And, it's true if you take a long walk and you turn this thing off, you can recharge, or you take a hike for a couple hours. It's like a great form of meditation. We don't think about this. All the noise in the world, all the political stuff, the venom, the toxicity. I mean, it sucks. And it sucks, out of you. Just some commentary. That's why we try and have some fun once in a while here, have all points of view, not one. And, try and talk about some other stuff. But one of the subjects, excuse me, on that note we're going to talk about in a few moments is we're going to have a senior assistant attorney general on. And they want the cold case unit here, the state's cold case, the attorney generals and the state, they work together. They need your help. Because speaking of time and things moving fast, it's been 42 years. 42 years since a 15-year-old girl named Shirley Ann, but she was known as Tippy, her nickname Tippy McBride, 15-year-old girl went missing in Concord, New Hampshire. I think it was Union Street, J-Dog. 42 years a 15-year-old girl goes missing.
Just near here, by the way, Jack.
What's that? What's that, J-Dog?
Union Street is near these mini media studios in Concord, in point of fact, just to give you a heads up.
It is near us, okay? She just innocently left her sister's apartment. That's the last they've seen of her. 42 years she's been missing. And this morning we're going to hear from really the lead prosecutor on this, who wants and needs your help. Anyone with information, it's been long enough, anything at all that can help the cold case team that never stops working these cases to solve this, to find a lead. And sometimes it comes from one of you. You may have forgotten about this case and bumped into someone, or been out at a restaurant and heard someone talking about this, and you didn't even think about it, but a bell goes off. Just call. I think they're going to tell us coming up. I think these calls can be anonymous, these tips, or I even think, and I'm going to ask the Attorney General, and he's on in a few moments on my show here, our show, your show, I think you can speak with one of these prosecutors and not have your name be used, but share the information. They just want they just want this to be solved. 42 years is long enough. And J-Dog, you remember this growing up, right? The story, the case?
Yes, I do.
Tippy McBride that's what she was known as. 42 years she goes missing. And sometimes these cold cases are solved with one phone call, one message. Someone's passing away and they tell someone, or someone knows something, but they didn't want to say anything because they knew the person. It just takes a little bit of a crack, a little bit of a break. So we're going to just focus. There's others. There's still that Mother's Day murder in Wolfboro. I think she had been a nurse, and can't remember her name, and I'm sorry, and all due respect to her, but there were people in the house, and that one hasn't been solved. But this one's 42 years. Tippy McBride, if you have any information coming up, we're going to tell you how to maybe help solve this, because the cold case team, they put out a call for help. They need your help. They want your help. A little bit later on, Mike Cody, New Hampshire Business Review, will have an update on housing prices in June locally. Actually went down a little bit over May. And a little bit later on, Rory O'Neill with some national news. Brad Card will be joining us as we get into our 11 o'clock hour, and Mike Dennehy will be joining us today with an all-due edition of our Contact Politics podcast. More details, more stories, and remembering Lindsey Graham and his sister was sworn in, I believe, in South Carolina to fill out the remainder of his term by the governor there. And the sister of Lindsey Graham will ride it. I think it's through January. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. We got a hot one in store for you today, temperature-wise. Possible storms later on this evening as the air mixes up there and collides. I guess that's what causes it. There you go. Not even a meteorologist, but I'll act like one occasionally. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Hughes, J-Dog on the boards. We are back in a